all right. Let's make this a little louder so you guys can hear me. Getting alerts. Stream's holding well. I have no issues. All right. Wait a few minutes to get some people into the stream. All right. Make sure this is working. I think we're okay. Come on. There we go. Perfect. And we'll do a test here real quick. Make sure everything is kosher, which I think we're okay. Come on. There we go. There we go. Alrighty, alrighty, alrighty. Move this mic down a little bit here. Alright. Look over here, and that's turned off. Excellent. At least my second monitor is working now. Shouldn't have any issues or problems there. We'll give it another minute or two to get people into the stream. And then we'll start going. There we go. No issues with the stream so far. Everything looks good. Alright. Testing. Make sure everything's kosher. Garbage running on my machine right now. A lot of trash. Turn all this garbage out. Cool. Tonight's drink of choice is Mountain Dew Ice, the brand new Mountain Dew product. Big shout outs to Mountain Dew Ice. Just waiting to get some more people in the stream, and then we will start the stream up. If you come into the stream a little late, I do apologize. Stream is starting up on time today. Had everything ready to go, so I figured we'll start talking, and I'll let you guys come into the stream as you come in. Right now, I look like I'm the only person in the stream, so I will talk to myself. That's fine. Got no issues with that. Today's stream is something I wanted to talk about because of the stuff we did last Monday's stream. It was the stuff about older vintage cartoons. I called it cartoons of past, present, and today. And I think I would be a good segue to take that idea and transition it to actual toys now. I thought it'd be a very, very good idea to do this. Mainly because this sort of format, the way I designed this particular stream's format, can basically touch any age group. If you're in your 50s now, if you're in your 40s, 30s, 20s, if you're in your early teens, or you're actually a young kid, this stream would be for you. It's going to be touching base on toys of your youth. Those are the toys that you had back when you were younger. And that's what I want to talk about in this stream right now. I want to thank for everyone who's coming to the stream right now. We're starting right now. Thank you guys for dropping by into the stream. As I said, oh, Safi's walking in the background over there. Hey, Safi, how's it going? But this stream is going to be about toys, and I figured it would be a good transition from, like I said, for last week's stream when we talked about cartoons back in the day. So let's talk about toys. I've always liked toys growing up, as coming from a younger kid into an adult. I still have a sort of a fascination with toys. I still love them. I probably won't ever get rid of my toys. I actually do really love my toys. So there was two toys. I'll get to you guys in the stream in a second. There were two toys. 1 second here. Hold on. Make sure everybody's cool in the stream. Make sure everything's going to pop up and there's no issues with the stream. How is the mic sounding, guys? Is the level okay? Do I need to make it louder or not? Please let me know. Whoops. Fix this real quick here. My monitor keeps dropping on me. There we go. I have an encoder overload. Hopefully it doesn't destroy my stream. Hi, Embriggins. How's it going, sir? Hopefully everything is kosher. The stream is going to be running a little tiny bit slow right now. I had a little bit of an encoder problem, but hopefully it will sort itself out shortly. Hey, Steve. How's it going, sir? Got some people in the stream. Excellent. So we're talking about toys of your youth. That's the idea of this stream. Hey, Sir Comics. Thanks for coming by. So I want to talk about two toys lines that I actually collected when I was much younger. I touched base about it in the last stream we had last Monday, which was of course cartoons. There was two toy lines I really loved growing up, and I want to hear you guys' input as well after I talk about mine. There were two toy lines I really dug, two of them. One, of course, was G.I. Joe, and the other one was Transformers. Let me start with G.I. Joe first and foremost. G.I. Joe back in the day, I'm talking G.I. Joe, not the 12-inch G.I. Joes. I'm talking the smaller scaled-down G.I. Joes that we know, love to this day, the 3 3/4 inch G.I. Joe figures. Originally, if you guys were not aware, G.I. Joes were actually much bigger. They were 12 inches in scale. When they started running them in the 80s for the G.I. Joe Real American Hero line, they scaled the figures much smaller down and created the 3 3/4 inch scale that we know and love to this day. And G.I. Joes back in that time were much cheaper than they were today. If you look at the G.I. Joes now, at least more modern G.I. Joes, excuse me, they were actually, thank you, Jackie. G.I. Joes had a much lower price point. I want to say, and I could be off on the pricing here, guys, so bear with me. I want to say the price for them was about $3.99 to $4.99 a figure. Yep, I agree, Sir Comics. I agree. So G.I. Joe back then was very affordable for households back then. Of course, the price point of, you know, because of attrition and the price of dollars and everything just scaled up exponentially. Back then, G.I. Joes had a very affordable price tag. Transformers, on the other hand, had a bit higher price point. I want to say, I could be off here, I want to say $7.99, maybe $8.99, between, I want to say $6.99 to maybe $7.99. I think it's in that range somewhere. I believe it could be off. I believe. We have 6 people in chat. Thank you guys for coming into chat. But I believe that was the price point for G.I. Joes. And I liked my G.I. Joes when I was growing up as a kid. When my mom gave me a G.I. Joe, or my dad did back in the day, I loved my old school G.I. Joes. And what was cool about G.I. Joes, you had a range of characters, all sorts of characters. And the artworks on the cards, the actual blister pack cards, what made G.I. Joe so cool. And just to kind of give you guys a feel of what G.I. Joes look like, I got some examples here. I want to break down a little show and tell for you guys. I want to show you this one here. This is what the original G.I. Joe figures look like if you're not familiar. This is basically a redone version, a relaunch of, back, I think it was for the 25th anniversary. This is what the original Snake Eyes Commando used to look like. This is what he looked like back in the day. And the file card, if you look here, was very similar. And this is what I want to talk about here, are the file cards. You had all these cool characters on the back here that were part of the G.I. Joe collection. Of course, you had good guys and you had bad guys, but the file cards here were just as important as the actual figure. Yep, cool, Steve. I mean, I used to collect tons of G.I. Joe when I was growing up as a kid. And this is what the old Snake Eyes used to look like. This is basically a redo of him here. I apologize for the glare on it, but this is what he sort of looked like back in the day. Of course, this is, like I said, just a relaunch of that figure. This is not the original 1983-84 Snake Eyes, if you're curious. This is not him. But this is the type of toys that I liked growing up. And the Snake Eyes was one of my favorite all-time G.I. Joe characters. I mean, come on. You had a ninja in all black who was a good guy. And usually the paradigm back then was the guy dressing in all black was usually the bad guy. And the guy dressing in all white was the good guy. Well, in this situation, it was flipped where the bad guy was Storm Shadow and the good guy was Snake Eyes. And if you're not familiar, Larry Hama was basically this Asian writer who basically is the gatekeeper from all the G.I. Joe lore. He wrote all the history for G.I. Joe and all these file cards you see back here. I used to cut all these file cards out and actually keep them. They don't have flag points, I don't think, on this. Now, if you're not familiar, flag points was a way for, if you collected G.I. Joe stuff, you would cut out the little flag points, and you could redeem them for figures down the line. You might get, let's say, because back then in the early 80s, there were no email. You had nothing like that. You would basically be part of their membership group, and they would send you, like, a letter in the mail. Or you might go to Toys R Us, and they'll talk about a specific figure that you could only buy with the actual flag points. And that was one thing they always did. And I always wanted to collect my flag points to cash them in for the really cool figures. And those were certain ways you could only get those figures with the actual flag points. You couldn't get them any other way. Now, what was cool about Snake Eyes here, there was really 2 versions of him that he originally came out with, and I remember this vividly. You had this version here, which was the sort of the second version of the Commando Snake Eyes, and you had the first version, and the difference between the two was one had the swivel arm battle grip, and the other one did not. Swivel arm battle grip was the ability of the figure to take its forearm and spin it 360 degrees. You basically, from here, you do this. The old school G.I. Joes could only move their arms up and down. You didn't have this range of motion. So for the next set of figures, they would say, you know, as a big selling point, now with swivel arm battle grip. So that was something very, very cool back in the day when you actually got the old school G.I. Joes. Now, I vividly remember playing with my G.I. Joes a lot. I had Joes and Cobras. I had big vehicles, small vehicles. I mentioned it before. I had like the Ram, which was a little motorcycle with a big Gatling gun attached to the side of it. I had the G.I. Joe headquarters. I remember that specifically. I had the Rattler, which was the Cobra 810. It was a big blue jet. I remember the Sky Striker, which was basically an F-14 Tomcat, where there was a action feature in the back where you basically pulled a lever in the back and the wings would sweep in and out. And that would also cause the landing gear to go up and down. So it was a very, very cool toy, a very big toy. I mean, the Sky Striker was literally, I mean, it's off my screen here. You can't see my hands, but literally it was about 2.5 feet. It was a really big jet. I love those old school G.I. Joe toys. Now, I did pick up some other G.I. Joe stuff back in the day. Well, back in the day. Also, one of the cool things about G.I. Joe was I remember vividly this. I had a counter in my closet, and I specifically took my G.I. Joes. At that time, I didn't care about the stuff in the packaging. I usually just ripped them out and cut out the tech spec card here, the classified cards. And I had a big stack of cards when I was growing up. But what I always used to do is I vividly remember this. I had a big sort of counter in my closet. And I had a massive fight between my Joes and my Cobras. I literally had this huge battle scene taking place with literally like, I would say between 60 and 75 guys all lined up. I had guys that were on jetpacks hanging from strings. I mean, I used to do really, really crazy things with my G.I. Joes. They all had the figure stands. This one also, if you didn't notice, there was a figure stand on this one too. That's how the G.I. Joes normally would stand up. They had 2 peg holes in their feet. You can actually peg them to the actual stand. I used to do really, really weird things with my G.I. Joes, but I loved my Joes and my Cobras, both good guys and bad guys. Absolutely loved them. Now, a few years back, I was still getting into G.I. Joe. I was trying to make a surge back to Joe stuff. And I got some stuff here I want to show to you. Not my older stuff. Unfortunately, I don't have any of my older stuff, my vintage Joes. I'm kind of mad at myself. I picked this guy up mainly for nostalgia. I have an open version of him, of this specific figure, this carded figure, and I have it both open and on card. I did get this guy, if you were curious, at TJ Maxx for about $4. This was about 5 or 6 years ago for this guy here. They had the 25th, I think it was the 25th or 50th anniversary of these guys here, which was, here was the Snake Eyes Ninja Commando on card. I have a carded version and an uncarded version of him, just because I thought he looked really, really cool. They kind of try to keep it very similar to the old school Joes. The date on this one, I'm trying to see the date. I don't see it anywhere, unfortunately. I'm looking for it. I don't see the copyright on it. Maybe I'm just not seeing it. 2010. This was 2010 for these guys, so we're talking 8 years ago for this guy. Then we had, of course, Firefly. So I did pick up several of these ones. These are off the hub, right here. Very cool looking figure. Again, all on card. And again, I'm not gloating here, guys. I just want you to see what the sort of, if we look at the old school Joes to the new school Joes, there's a big difference between the two. I wanted to sort of, so you can see a comparison between, you know, Snake Eyes here and this one, or if you wanted to look at Snake Eyes with Timber and this one here. I thought it'd be kind of cool so you could see it. And then, of course, we have this one right here. We have a nice Beachhead, who was their urban, I think their urban combat specialist. He came with a really sick amount of gear. And, of course, probably one of the best Snake Eyes ever made, in my honest opinion, was this one right here. He comes with a stupid amount of gear. 2 different heads, 3 swords, a rifle, an Uzi, 2 pistols. If you were not sure, these are actually silencers that attach to the pistols. And literally, with I think the exception of maybe 1 pistol and 1 sword, you can put every piece of gear on this figure. This figure here is extremely cool. If you're looking for a really cool Snake Eyes figure, if you do like G.I. Joe, pick this figure up here. This was called the Snake Eye Ninja Commando. So, if we look at the old school G.I. Joe to the new school, you know, they're trying to keep it somewhat similar between the two figures, but there's definitely a difference to it. Hey Jay, how's it going, sir? So I wanted you to kind of see what the old school versions look like. Then they had a bunch of 2-packs at Toys R Us. Again, this is for the 50th anniversary. I picked up some of these as well. This was the Lady J and Baroness 2-pack. I got the, what I thought was very, very cool. It's Lowlight and Night Viper. And of course, I've never opened any of these stuff. I'm probably never going to. And I actually got a very, very good deal on this one here. You can see the price sticker. You're going to laugh. It's actually $4.90 for a 3-pack. We had, this one's called Sneak Attack. You had, I think you had Dusty, Bazooka, and another Firefly. So this Firefly right here was the identical Firefly to this one. I think it was just a paint variant on this one, I believe. It's the same one as this one right here. But they changed, I think, his mines to red. It's literally the same exact figure, just put in this 3-pack, if you were curious. So, guys, I wanted you guys to see kind of some of the old school G.I. Joe stuff that I still have. Some new stuff, some old stuff. But I think, all in all, it's very, very cool stuff. Like I said, I was a big fan of G.I. Joe back in the day. I have, I think, the Ice Wolf. I picked it up on a new release. They actually dropped out maybe a couple of years ago, I believe. I could be off on that. They actually re-released the Ice Wolf, which was an ice vehicle that the Cobras had. It fit 2 guys, and it was a missile pack. Doing good, Jay. How's it going, sir? Thank you for coming into the stream. But I loved my old school G.I. Joes. They were very fun to play with. The price point was pretty good on the money. It wasn't too pricey, and I absolutely loved it. Now I'm going to switch gears a little bit to something else that I really loved, and that was Transformers. I remember specifically, I know my very first Transformer that I ever owned, and that was Skywarp. He's one of my favorite of the Seeker jets. If you're not familiar with Transformers, they had 3 specific jets. They were identical F-15 Eagles, and the only difference between them really were their colors. They had the same identical weapons. The only thing different was one was white, one was blue, one was black, and they had different colored trims between them. You had Skywarp, which was the black jet. You had Starscream, which was the white jet, and you had Thundercracker, which was the blue jet. I loved Skywarp. I always thought it was cool because he could teleport. I thought it was a very, very neat power they had. They had the tech specs. And what made the Transformers so cool was that they had, like, if you took 3D glasses, the red film of the 3D glasses, it was sort of a gimmick for it. There's this weird sort of red gunk on the back of the tech spec card for Transformer. You put the red film on top of that red gunk, and it made the red go away, and you can see their skills, what level of power they had. So I thought it was a very, very cool little gimmick they always had for Transformers. One of the old things I loved about Transformers, actually. Very, very cool idea. But my first Transformer was Skywarp, for the bad guys, for the Decepticons. My first good guy, I remember specifically, was Cliffjumper. I always loved Cliffjumper. He was like Bumblebee. Back then, the Bumblebee was a small little VW Bug. I mean, it was a little car about, I want to say about literally this big. That's how big it was. It was a very, very tiny car. Simple transformation. You pull the arms out, you extend the body, and just swing the figure up. Literally, it was just click, pull, done, and whip the head up. I think it was 4 steps to transform it. And I loved my Cliffjumper. It was the same guy as Bumblebee. It was just a repaint. That's all it was. One was yellow, one was red. And I always liked him in the cartoon because he was the kind of always wanted to get in the action. He was always up in everybody's face. He always wanted action, 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 action. I thought he was such a cool character. You know, this little squat little guy, always wanted to get into a fight. I thought he was very, very cool, very different sort of character. But I loved Transformers growing up. I had, as far as what I had back then, I mean, I had stuff like, I had my Prime. I had my Optimus Prime. I had my Megatron. The biggest problem I had with Megatron, it was an issue with the figure because it was a P-38 pistol. That's what it was actually constructed off of. And you cannot find those P-38s anymore. They're extremely, extremely, extremely rare. Only because of the laws with guns and things like that. If you look at most Megatrons, they transform into, let's say, a tank. Or you transform into some type of weird jet. Most of the actual Megatrons now, or maybe a dinosaur, like from Beast Wars, most Megatrons don't transform into a gun. It's because of the rules and regulations in the U.S. They don't allow gun-like things. But Megatron was a P-38 back in the day. He came with a huge stock that actually would extend off the front of it. That's a noise here as far as in weather. I do apologize. He had a huge stock that came off that you can hook on your shoulder, and a huge barrel, which it actually linked into his transformation, where he would be sitting holding like a cannon, and it's a gigantic barrel. The scope, of course, came off of Megatron attached to his arm as his fusion cannon. That's one thing we all know from Megatron. If you've ever seen Transformers, you see Megatron with that huge cannon. When he transformed into the actual gun, it actually became the scope piece for the Walter P-38 pistol. So I love my Megatron. The biggest problem I had was when you tried to transform it, the waist when you broke the gun, when you tried to split the waist to transform it, it'll be a hinge. Most of the time, people had issues with that hinge because it always either fail or pop out. The screw would fail or just break. Mine did as well. I had to get a screw and screw it in place. It looked very, very weird to have a gun with a screw on the end of it. So it looked very, very weird. I do have a few Transformers that I still have in my collection. I still have a lot of stuff off of card. I want to show one here to you just to see what Transformers look like now if you've not seen new Transformers. This is from the Combiner Wars. This is Hotspot. He is the central piece for the Defensor, part of the Defensor team. Don't even know what they were called. The Protectobots. That's what they were, Protectobots. He was the central chest piece for the Protectobots. I've never opened this guy up. I still have him on card. If you were curious. Very, very cool figure. I don't know if I'm ever going to open him yet. I haven't decided. But I do have still a lot of Transformers, at least from the Combiner War era moving forward, up until the end of the Combiner Wars. So I think Combiner Wars ran for like maybe 2 or 3 years, and that's where that one actually ended. Those were the two big toy lines I collected. I did have a small collection of He-Man Masters of the Universe. I know specifically my favorite one, actually also let me take a step back. One of my other Transformers I had was Blue Streak, Silver Streak, same guy. I love that guy as well. He had the same body as Prowl, just a different color, and Sunstreaker. I had Sunstreaker. I'd never had Sideswipe. They were twins. They were supposed to be both Lamborghinis. The Sideswipe was in fact a Lamborghini. The Sunstreaker, I don't know if he was really a Lamborghini. He might have been, but a huge big engine block on the back of him. He was a little different. But I had specifically those guys. I definitely remember those Transformers. Now let's switch over to He-Man. I did have some He-Man stuff. Of course, I had your standard He-Man. I had a Skeletor. But my favorite He-Man figure, you're going to laugh, was, I think it was Triclops was his name. He was my very first He-Man figure. He's the guy who was green, and he had an action feature gimmick where you would basically spin the top of his head, and it had different eyes. And each eye did something different. I had a collection of He-Man stuff, vintage He-Man. I didn't buy any of the new stuff off of Matty Collector. I didn't get any of that stuff because I wasn't into He-Man like crazy into He-Man, like many other people that are out there who are specific let's say just He-Man collectors. That wasn't me. I liked a bunch of different things. Thank you guys for staying and stream with me. Liked a bunch of different old school vintage toys back in the day. Everyone loved, He-Man. I used to love GoBots. Basically, when the Transformers pricing was getting a little bit more expensive, they were the cheap knockoff versions of Transformers. And I do remember a few of them. I think I had Leader 1. I did have Psykill. I remember Psykill, who was the main bad guy. I think it was Thrasher, which was the race car, I believe. I could be wrong. It was a female. I do remember that particular one. I think I had one of the bigger ones. I think they called it a Mega GoBot, which was about like this tall, compared to, let's say, a GoBot, which was, let's say, this big. I specifically do remember that one. But I did have a couple GoBots as well. And one thing I want to bring to your guys' attention, and you're going to laugh at me, I had one Fisher-Price toy that I loved growing up as a kid. I just recently, within the last week, found out what the thing was called. I've been searching, trying to find out what this thing was called for a couple of years now. I couldn't remember what this toy was called. I remember playing it as a kid. I had 2 versions of this thing for Fisher-Price. It was a blue jet. It was an F-15 blue jet. It was about this big. It was about a foot and a half. And I remember this toy specifically, and I remember playing it as a kid. I think I either broke one or lost one, and my mom bought me a replacement. I do remember this toy, and eventually I'm going to buy one. I want to have it just for a sense of nostalgia. I want to try to get one on mint on card. I've seen lots of ones that are on eBay, but they're used. If you're not familiar with what this toy is, I can bring a picture of it for you, because I actually found it a couple minutes ago. I want you to see it. And I'll bring it up here on my phone so you can take a look at it here. It's called the Fisher-Price Adventure Kit Turbo Hawk. This is what this thing was called. It was a big blue jet, a toy that I remember very, very well back in the day. This is what it kind of would look like. I'll let my camera focus in on it. It's a very, very cool big blue jet. It looked very much like Thundercracker. He had a very Thundercracker-esque feel to him. It's very, very difficult to try to find one mint on card. I've not yet been able to locate one, but I definitely want to get one. Here's another shot of it here so you can see what it'll look like. I'm going to buy this jet. I'm definitely going to buy this jet only because I have very fond memories of it. Jackie, do I have a big Transformers collection? Not as big as it's bigger now than what it was when I was growing up. I want to say I have at least in storage. I have two or three massive totes full of all Transformers, and this is Transformers from mainly Combiner Wars, moving up until the beginning of the next set they had. I didn't go into that next set mainly because I switched over. You might hear some ambulances down the road, so that's what's going on there. People just came in the stream. Drink of choice tonight is Mountain Dew Ice. It's a brand new drink from Mountain Dew. Pretty cool, actually. Sort of like a Mountain Dew 7-Up or a Sprite. Quite a few. I know for Transformers, I have at least 2 to 3 totes of that. I have at least 2 more totes full of all sorts of other miscellaneous stuff, mint on card stuff. I have an eBay auction going up right now it was the New York Comic Con 2011 2-pack. It was for Transformers Prime. It was Bumblebee and RC, the New York Comic Con version of it with RC in her pink bike. You can only get the RC pink bike for that version in that 2-pack. You cannot get it anywhere else. They normally sell her as a blue bike, not a pink bike. I have that going up on auction. I think it's going as Best Buy. It's going for a buy it now. I think for $120 right now, which is usually the going rate for that particular item. But I want to say at least 2 to 3 totes of Transformers and 2 to 3 totes of just miscellaneous other stuff. That could be action figures, pops. And that's one thing I did when I sort of transitioned from G.I. Joe and Transformers into pops. I basically phased out my Transformer collecting portion of it. And I went specifically for pops, mainly because the price point for pops are much lower than Transformers. Most Transformers nowadays you're looking at is about, I want to say, $15 for a Transformer Deluxe class. When you start going higher to, let's say, Voyager, you're looking at $25. When you're going leader class, you're looking at like $50. Anything bigger than that can scale up dramatically. I do have a mint on card Amazon Unicron. It goes for about $250 right now. I've never opened it. Still mint on package. The only thing that's a bit off on the package is the bottom portion of the package, the stand portion where it would stand straight up, has basically detached from the tape. But it's all still mint on card. It's just that bottom piece has detached away. And I mean, I can easily tape it back in place. But I still have that sitting in the closet right now. It's about a $250 item. I want to say about $250. But I still have it mint on card right now. That's the really big Unicron. It's like close to like 2 feet tall. No, I can't say 2 feet tall because they have bigger than that. I want to say 1.5 feet. It's not Fortress Maximus. It's not Planet Cybertron. It's not Scorponok. It's not Metroplex. I don't have any of those guys there. I could have bought those guys, absolutely. I'm thinking about getting. During the if you're not familiar with Transformers, during the I want to say 3 years ago, they had a special contest for Hasbro to create a new team of good guys or bad guys. You'd vote on it, and they did a round of votes, and you'd vote on which vehicles you'd want, and it was an all-female combiner team. This was during the end of the Combiner Wars saga, basically. And it was a all-female combiner team. Very cool. You could buy, I think it's 6 pieces to actually put it together. It was, I think, 2 helicopters, 2 cars, a bike, and a weird truck like the Hotspot here, which is definitely repurposed and redesigned. They did a lot of, they basically took the buck of that and just repackaged it, changed the color. And what made the Kai really, really cool was when you put all the pieces in place, it matched exactly. So it was, I think, like a light bluish color, and it was like copper. It was light blue and copper. I haven't decided yet, Hector, if I'm going to be selling off some of my stuff. Eventually, when I'm down the road, I'm going to start doing local conventions. I know that for a fact. Stuff like SuperCon down here or the Revolution Con. The smaller conventions, I probably would never do MegaCon just because it would be so. For me, it's a 3 hour drive. And it was extremely expensive for a MegaCon. I want to say it's like $500 a day for a table. It's extremely expensive. I want to go there to just do a Rook Geek Goodness stand, basically. It would be an artist alley. I want to have like a 50-inch TV there. I want to have a big backdrop with my banner that you see there. I would basically do just my videos playing over and over again. I have business cards there. I'm going to do giveaways. I'd probably do what I want to eventually do is have shirts with my business card. If you're not familiar with my business card, hold on, let me just move this out the way so I can get one of my business cards out. You can see what it looked like. If you're not familiar with my business card, I actually created it. This is what it would look like. If you notice, there's a QR code right here. If you scan that with your cell phone, it will immediately bring you to my page, to my YouTube channel. And I'm going to make a shirt very similar like this, probably using the Javier Lugos Rook Geek Goodness you see of the pop version of me. But that's my business card. But I would make shirts and sell the shirts as well. But I'd buy them in bulk, like lots of them in bulk. And have the QR code attached to it, so you can just scan it with your phone and you can subscribe to my channel. One thing I'm probably going to eventually do down the line. What I would also do is I would take a lot of the items I've gotten for subscription boxes and make giveaway boxes off of that to do that as well during the convention. That's something I thought about doing, but I'm not going to do it right now, only because it'd be a very, very big investment to do. It'd probably be to do something like that to get the shirts done. It'd probably cost to get, let's say, 25 to 50 shirts, about $500 to $600 for the shirts. I need to get the backdrops. I'll need to get 18 by 24 styrofoam boards. I need to get a big banner created with my banner logo in place. To do all that would probably be about a $1,000 investment just to do the convention, to basically increase my brand. That's one of the things that a lot of the YouTubers that are in South Florida, the pop hunters that are down South Florida, they do not do conventions. Something I eventually would love to do down the road. But right now, I'm not currently doing that. But if sometime down the road, I want to definitely do that. Yeah, it's a pretty cool business card. It's very, very neat. I got to make some changes with the card. There's a little bit of typos that I want to fix when I make my next batch of cards, just to increase it. I have to fix a few little things. But definitely want to get that Fisher-Price toy. I absolutely broke it up. Hopefully the stream doesn't crash. 1 second here. I might lose the stream in a second, guys. I'm getting a lot of latency here. Hold on. The stream might go dead. Hopefully it doesn't. Is it going to correct itself? Hopefully it corrects itself. Got a lot of drop frames. Give me 1 second, guys. Getting a lot of drop frames. Don't know why it just all of a sudden decided to just have issues. Yeah, I know the stream is good, but I'm seeing a lot of drop frames through the OBS right now. I'm not sure the reason why, which is weird because the stream looks healthy, which is very, very odd. I have over 630 drop frames. It's about 1% dropped right now. I'm hoping it will clear itself up and not lock up. 700 drop frames. I'm seeing what's going on. I do apologize. 700, 800. Hopefully it will sort itself out. What if I use your phone like some other YouTubers do live? The problem with that, it's extremely difficult to see what I'm doing on my phone. Mainly because the camera literally is like this big on my phone. It's extremely difficult to see what's frames right now. Wow. But it looks like it's still holding. My OBS has not crashed. It's about 2% drop frames right now. I'm going strong. Again, I do apologize. Hopefully it will recorrect itself. And it's funny because I'm looking at the stream health on my other monitor. I see no issue. I don't see any latency. I don't see it crashing. But those are my old school toys. Let me hear in chat what you guys like. I've talked for 30 minutes so far. What were your old school toys? Hit me up in chat. What do you guys like? Let me know, please. 6 people in chat right now, and I see some latency happening. At least on my end. I do see some latency. Let me do a test here. I'm just curious. I don't see it going down. Just see you just dropping more and more packets. Ninja Turtles. Yep, I used to do some old Ninja Turtles. Absolutely. Absolutely. I remember my Ninja Turtles very adamantly. I had the old school vintage turtles. Not the turtles that you see nowadays. I saw lots of old turtles, and I absolutely loved them. Absolutely loved my old turtles. Of course, my favorite turtle was Raphael. He always has been my favorite turtle. What else do you guys like? Um, I had some, let's see, Power Rangers. I do remember Flip Action. I remember seeing the Power Rangers with the hidden identity gimmick, where you would flip the head, and it would be like you would flip the head into there would be two heads. It would revolve in the middle, so you'd have, let's say, we'll take Tommy. We'll have Tommy's head on top, and you basically either hit a button or it switches it, and it will flip it to, let's say, the morphed version of Tommy. That's how it normally would work. It was very, very cool, neat little idea. I do remember that particular Power Ranger. I did have my Tommy Power Ranger back in the day. Of course, Transformers, which you talked about, Ninja Turtles. Absolutely, absolutely. I'm at 2,500 drop frames. Lovely. As long as you guys still can see the stream with no issues, if it starts locking up, let me know, and I'll just kill my OBS and I'll relaunch it. Yep, they relaunched those, Hector. It's a different it's the same type of it's the same figure, just they relaunched it. That's all they did. Looks like the frames dropped, but it's still red. It's about 4% right now, drop frames. It's not going up anymore. It's going up a little bit. Still going up. Is the stream okay with you guys' side? Is it locking up at all? Is it lagging? Please let me know. It looks okay. If you start seeing it lag, let me know. It's about 4% drop frames right now. Unfortunately. About 4%. It just keeps going up. As long as the stream holds strong, I won't restart it. Unless it starts getting bad, let me know. What other stuff do you guys have back in the day? So we talked G.I. Joe, we talked Transformers. It's okay? Cool. Yeah, with the problem with the new Maddie stuff is they didn't give any action feature gimmicks. They did stuff that sort of mimicked action feature gimmicks. They would do different things, like they would make, let's say, a knob on someone's chest, which would look like an action feature. They didn't do the action feature, but they mimicked the action feature. I know they're canceling Maddie Collector's canceling He-Man, and they're doing Thundercats now. That's another thing they're doing. I do remember Thundercat toys. It's lagging a little. Yep. So let me do this, guys. I see it lagging on my side. I'm going to kill my OBS. Stick tight. Back in a second. I'm going to kill this whole thing, and I'm going to start it all over again. Back in 1 second, guys. Hold tight for me. Yep. Stream has been reestablished. There we go. How is it now, guys? Luckily, I know how to recover from this stuff. You probably have to use the, it's called the, what the hell do they call it? They called it the, there's a streaming app you can get for your phone. It's called YouTube Gaming. It would look something like this. That's what you want to use to do your streaming. If you're a